Space is not silent. It is just waiting for the right moment to scream. I spent 3 years at the Epsilon monitoring station, listening to the vacuum, waiting for a sign of life. But when the signal finally came, it wasn't an invitation, it was a sentence. The moment that object tore through Earth's atmosphere, I didn't see a shooting star. I saw the beginning of the end of our lineage. The station's sensors detected no metal, no fuel, no thermal radiation. It was as if a piece of pure nothingness had collided with the desert. When I arrived at the crash site, the air was heavy with the smell of ozone and something I could only describe as burnt time. The capsule wasn't built. It seemed to have been grown in a laboratory of nightmares. Geometric symbols that defied human logic floated over the black surface, changing shape as I approached. There were no doors, only a membrane that dissolved at my touch. And inside, there was no monster. There was something much worse, perfection. She looked like us, but she was a biological lie. Every movement of hers was too fluid, too precise. Her eyes didn't focus on me, but on everything around me, as if she were reading the source code of our reality. My universal translator, a cutting-edge piece of technology from Zenith Corp, collapsed trying to process the first sentence she uttered. The device emitted only static noise and system error warnings. It was then I realized the problem wasn't the device. The problem was that her language operated in dimensions that our brain has not yet learned to map. When she finally calibrated her own voice to our frequency, the first word my tablet translated was inadequate. I took her to the station, not out of hospitality, but out of fear of what would happen if she was set loose. She looked at our supercomputers as if they were broken wooden abacuses. Every touch of hers transformed the silicon into something organic, something conscious. I asked who she was. The translator took 10 minutes to formulate a response that made sense to a human mind. The answer wasn't a name, it was a title, the Architect of Entropy, third heiress of the Glass Empire. She wasn't lost, she was on a reconnaissance mission, and her conclusion about Earth was devastating. She didn't see us as a civilization. She saw us as a biological infection on a planet that her empire claimed 1 billion years ago. The moment of greatest tension wasn't when she threatened to kill me, but when she showed curiosity. She observed a small plant I kept in the lab. With a gesture, she accelerated that plant's time, making it bloom and die in seconds. She laughed. It wasn't a laugh of joy. It was the laugh of a mathematician finding a basic error in an equation. "You celebrate brevity," she said. "Your greatest strength is not understanding how insignificant you are." At that moment, the station's long-range sensor triggered a signal that made my blood run cold. A pulse coming from deep space. An answer to her call. They were coming. The next morning didn't bring the sun. It brought the Imperial fleet. They weren't warships. They were world harvesters. They hovered over the atmosphere like silent gods awaiting their princess's command. The communications panel exploded into frequencies that no human radio should pick up. It was the Queen Mother, a collective consciousness that dominated entire galaxies. The ultimatum was simple. The heiress must return so that sterilization may begin. I looked at that girl, that entity who had spent the last few hours mocking our technology, and I saw something I didn't expect. Hesitation. She didn't want to leave, not because she loved us, but because she had found something her empire did not possess, the chaos of imperfection. She denied the command. For the first time in the history of the Glass Empire, an heiress chose contamination. She told her mother that Earth was a necessary experiment. The ships retreated to the edges of the solar system, where they remain today as invisible sentinels waiting for a slip-up. She turned to me and the translator caught her last words. "I gave you time. Now prove that you deserve not to be erased." The fleet was gone, but the sky never looked the same again. Now, I am no longer a technician. I am the guardian of a secret that could destroy any man's sanity. They say ignorance is bliss. I would give everything to go back to being the man who only listened to the silence. Today, I look at the stars, and I see no light. I see eyes watching us, waiting for the moment of the end. Welcome to Zenith Imperium, where the future is not written by us, but merely allowed by them.